We are now talking to professional boxer, judo fighter, Miss Dee Hamaguchi. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Considering, all things considering.
So, how are you and your family doing with this pandemic?
Well, I'm by myself here in Los Angeles. Most of my family's up in Canada. Mm-hmm. We're not allowed to cross the border, but we stay in touch. So,
and I know Anthony right over here, sitting, my partner over here. He is he's in the Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame, right? Am I right?
Wow.
Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Am I saying it right? What is it? MMA Hall of Fame?
The United States
Martial
Arts Hall of Fame.
How about this? Just say the MMA Hall of Fame.
No.
Yes, because that's what it is.
What it is.
Well, then write it down or something, because it's annoying.
Why do I have to write it down? I tell you all the time.
Anyways,
just like I tell you my last name, you still butcher that. It's spelled right in front of you.
Am I pronouncing your name right, Dee?
It's spelled right
Hamaguchi?
there. Right there.
Hamaguchi, you got it right.
I got it right? Am I pronouncing it right?
Last name right here.
Yeah.
Last name. Look.
See, this guy, my partner over here.
You made this.
This guy over here, he always complains that I pronounce his name completely wrong. But the truth is, it's the American way.
You're telling
me
it
is the American way.
Wait a second. You're telling me
yes,
that I don't know how to say my own last name and that you're right?
I think you're lost. I do. I think you're a little lost here, Anthony. I'm trying to help you here. I'm trying to help you. Maybe you.
What planet do you come from?
Have you ever seen the movie Forever Young?
No.
Well, I'll have to tell you off air because we have a special guest.
Is that like a notebook thing?
No.
That's like a notebook thing, isn't it?
No. Mel Gibson. They put him to sleep.
Movie.
No.
Mel Gibson.
No.
They put him to sleep.
No. Dee, have you ever seen Forever Young?
I don't think I have.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to help you out. That's a good movie. You check it out.
Thank you.
Okay, I will.
Straight to video.
Anyways, Dee, you're in your 50s right now, and you had 3 fights. You were just telling me during the break that you had 3 fights last year, and you had an upcoming fight coming up. In the next month or the month after that. Why don't you tell the fans a little bit about yourself and your growth as a boxer, being that you're in your 50s right now, and growing as a mixed martial artist boxer?
Well, the story starts back in the 90s in New York, and I had moved to Harlem. I was still doing judo and kind of getting my foot in the door with a little karate, Shotokan, Goju, and I got intrigued because I went to a karate tournament actually out on Long Island. Who was it, Lee, Ireland?
Mm-hmm. We're based out of Long Island. So I'm loving you already, Dee. I'm loving you already.
and I watched the tournament and I thought, gee, I don't think I can get with that because it was pretty much no contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know if I don't know if that's for me. And I thought about it for a bit, and then I was able to talk to a few of my friends who were martial artists that also did some boxing. So one day I decided, let me ask them if they think I could box. And to me, it was a crazy idea, and I was fully ready for them to say, what are you kidding me? Are you nuts? No, don't box. But I asked the question, and I got completely the opposite response. They're like, yeah, you could box. Go to, and they sent me to Connie Bryant's gym on 125th and 5th. Connie Bryant was Iran Barkley's trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in a small little stinky little gym, and that's where I started. I looked out and I met Saul Mambi. I don't know if you remember him, the late Saul Mambi.
Sal Mambi,
former world, he was world champion. Anyways, he met me at that gym. He said, "Hey, you should go to Gleason's gym, and because there'll probably be, maybe a couple women there, what have you. I mean, women's boxing was definitely not a thing yet, right?
Right.
So back in 1993, I saw this little notice ripped out of the Daily News, stuck on the wall in Connie's gym, and it was the entry form for the Golden Gloves. So I'm looking at it, and then I asked one of the trainers, hey, can I enter that? And he's like, oh, no. There's no woman in that. And I was like, and I thought to myself, well, it's an amateur tournament, so they're not supposed to discriminate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just saying this to myself. And I figured, I'm just going to enter. I just put my first initial,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know I'm a girl, right? And just send it in, see what happens. Then lo and behold, they send me back all this medical forms to fill out and whatnot. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll send all this back, And long story short, unfortunately, that was a year there was a crazy snowstorm and there was a big mail delay. So I never got my notification to show up for the medical exam. I didn't get that in time, so I missed it. And then when I called them up to try to reschedule or something, then obviously they knew I was female, and they were kind of like, oh, sorry, you missed the last one. So I was kind of out of luck for that year. But over the summer, I was able to meet with an attorney from the ACLU,
Mm-hmm.
and she went ahead and made phone calls, wrote some letters, and we never really pursued a lawsuit or anything like that. But I think it was just her making phone calls and whatnot. The next year, the Daily News just opened their doors to women. So that was in '94. We were allowed to enter for the '95 gloves, and then that was it. We were in the biggest amateur boxing tournament in the world, really, and there were TV cameras from all over the world there. I think everybody was just curious, like, what? Women's boxing? What's that going to be like? And, from there, the sport just grew. Well, the sport is a sport, but, women's participation grew, in the Olympic Games.
Right. Did you compete in the Olympics?
And now some of the female pros are actually getting TV time. I think it was a huge thing for women's amateur boxing to make it into the Olympics. First, there was just three weight divisions, but now I think they're going to have all weight divisions. So that's huge because it gives young girls and young women a reason to train their rear end off, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to make that Olympic team. That's huge motivation. And once, worldwide, once the base of the pyramid of female amateur boxing gets bigger, when that base of the pyramid is big, you're going to get much higher quality professional female fighters that grow out of that, just like the men.
Dee, did you ever have the opportunity to compete at the trials for the Olympics?
Well, it wasn't an Olympic sport when I was participating. So there was maybe nationals, and then for women who made a national team, sometimes there was like dual tournaments versus another country, that type of thing.
We are talking to professional boxer Dee Hamaguchi. She's based out of California. She's a judo fighter, and she's also a professional boxer. She had an upcoming fight, but because of this pandemic, it was canceled. Dee, the growth of women's boxing, and really boxing, I've seen a couple of your pictures on Instagram, and you've taken a couple of pictures with very famous trainers and boxers. Growing up as a boxing fan, and I'm a huge boxing fan. I've followed Mike Tyson in those years, and even now the Mayweather years, and really all the Pernell Sweepy Whitaker. Is there a particular boxer that you tried to mimic when you became a professional boxer?
Oh, I never felt I was trying to mimic the fighters, mm-hmm. but the first few fighters I really paid attention to were Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson.
Was there a reason why Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, and Joe Louis? I think Joe Louis, to me, and I've said this over and over again, and I'll say it again, Joe Louis is the greatest boxer of all time. I don't want to hear Muhammad Ali or Rocky Marciano.
Why you got to go there?
Floyd Mayweather.
Why you got to go there?
What do you mean why?
Why you got to go there? Why you got to go there with the Marciano thing? Why?
Why? What are you talking about?
Why?
Marciano didn't fight in 30 rounds, did he?
Why did you go there?
Did Marciano ever fight in 30 rounds?
This is an Italian thing.
Joe Louis fought 30-round fights. 30-round fights.
What 30 rounds?
What are you talking about? Joe Louis. Come on, D. Could you please explain to this guy when Joe Louis was the champion, he fought in 30-round fights?
For the love of God.
That's what I won't claim to be an expert on, but the old time guys, man, they would do like ridiculous number of rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking like Zach Johnson era.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. But to answer your question about why those three fighters, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was living in Harlem. And so that just felt like part of the culture, if you will. You know, like Joe Louis fought Schmeling at the Polo Grounds, which is now a housing development. Sugar Ray used to be in Harlem all the time, and he owned businesses up and down, I think it was 7th Avenue. You know, I just hear stories about this from people. So I would go over to the Schomburg Center, so big library on the corner of 135th and Lenox.
Right.
And this is really cool for any boxing fans. They have a photography archive where you could ask for permission to look at stuff, and they have like these really awesome old black and white photos of all these fighters.
Right.
But I actually did that one day, and they're not photographs that you would have seen in books already. So, I'm assuming that resource, once the pandemic's over, whatever, will be available to the public again. I encourage any boxing fan that's in the New York area, you know, you might want to make that trip to the Schomburg Center just to check some of that stuff out. And then I also read Thomas Hauser's book on Ali, and thought that was really intriguing because it gave kind of an inside look to the human aspect of who he was.
As you guys know, we are talking to professional boxer. How old are you, D? You're 55 years old, right?
Yeah.
55-year-old champion and boxer Dee Hamaguchi. Now, D, MMA has really exploded in the last 10 years. And the growth of mixed martial arts, the UFC, Bellator, all these different organizations that we've seen over the last couple of years. And boxing, prize fighting has really fallen off. And I would say in the last 2 years with Canelo Alvarez, Triple G, and some of these great young fighters coming up, the Kid Garcia that De La Hoya just brought in, do you think boxing is falling off and mixed martial arts is taking over? Or do you think boxing is just sitting back and waiting for those next champions to really take over the boxing and the boxing world and prize fighting?
I feel boxing's still alive and well. I just feel like MMA is like expanded so rapidly, right? Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, there are definitely fans of both, like educated fans of both, you know, people who are really just into combat sports.
Right.
They're probably going to be watching both. Like, you know, originally when the old school UFC was around, as a boxing person, I was like, I cannot watch this because it was two guys running at each other like they're doing swimming or something.
I said the same thing.
The quality of the action was just not good. And I felt like, I can't watch this. It's going to make me, you know, I'm going to be looking at something I don't want to copy. I don't want to copy that. So I stayed away from it. But to its credit, you know, MMA as a sport has evolved and gotten the striking is much, much better. And so, you know, hey, I'm a fan as well. I try to watch everything. There's nights when I got like split screen. I'm trying to watch both at the same time. So I don't feel like it's necessarily a question of boxing competing against MMA. I think there's groups of people who only want to watch MMA, groups of people who only want to watch boxing, and then there's some of us who really just love watching both. So I think there's room for everybody, really.